Good morning. Good morning. Jake Iancarelli, Keller Williams Realty here in Tampa Bay, Florida. I am the ALC Productivity Committee Chairperson at our Clearwater Market Center here in South Florida, and really excited for today. We have this call open every week, usually Mondays around noon, where we on the Productivity Committee mastermind about production and our goals, and then once a month, we bring on a mega agent from around the country to then join our call and talk about how they're staying in production, opportunity to give back to all the agents. So super excited that we have today on our call Sarah Reynolds. Sarah, are you on the call with us?
Yes, I am. So glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having the time carved out of your calendar to jump on. Really just very grateful for that. I know that you guys do a whole lot of business where you are. We saw you on stage with Gary during Family Reunion, just sharing what you have. That's one of the things I love about our company is that no matter where you are in the company, you can always share and learn from each other. And so just thank you again so much. It really means a lot. And I know the agents around the country who are dialing in are going to get great value. Real quick, before we jump in, today's call is going to run probably about 30 minutes. We're going to talk for 15, 20 minutes or so, Sarah and I. Then you'll have a chance to ask her a couple of questions here on the line. We'll open up a Q&A. We're also going to record this call, so we'll have the recording go out to everyone after the call, and then you can always go to my KW Connect page where I have all of the recordings that I've done with mega agents over the last few years, and there's some great value on there. We've had Alyssa Howard talking about her client parties, and Hudson Warren and Ashley Lay, like lots of agents. So please check it out there and get value out of that. So without further ado, would like to talk about Sarah and your team. So Sarah, you're out of the D.C. area, Virginia, right?
Yeah, so we service the entire D.C. metro market. So that consists of Maryland, Washington, D.C., and then Virginia. And then a year and a half ago, we expanded to Richmond, Virginia, which is 2 hours south of D.C. And then last year, we expanded to West Virginia. So that sort of entire big circle is what we focus on. And so we have a team in the D.C. metro market. We're made up of outside sales agents, which are our agent partners. We have inside sales agents, which are they make calls every day. And then we have an amazing success team, which is our support team, as well as a customer care team as well. So that's sort of the makeup of our team. Last year, we had the honor of helping 554 families, which equals in our market to about $7.4 million in gross commission income. This year, we just crossed over that amount. So right now, we're on track to do about $10.5 million in gross commission income, which will equal out to about 800 families served this year. And those are true. I like to say those are true families. So what I mean by that is our model. We don't have like big. I love the teams that do. I don't. But our model doesn't have that like big like REO accounts or big REIT accounts or builder accounts. They're true families served. So that's sort of our team and a little bit about us.
Awesome. That is a massive business, and I saw you on stage talking about that, and so you guys are super busy over there. Quite a few people on the team, and so let's just go ahead and dive in. You were mentioning about how you have your outside sales agents, your inside sales agents, and I just wanted to check in to ask first is how do you hold your team accountable? What are you doing to hold your team accountable to such a high level of production? I mean, 800 families served, that's a massive amount of production.
Yeah, so this, I'll try to be quick on this, but this is a big part of our success, really. So first and foremost, I lead with my strengths. So my number one strength is competitiveness. So what I mean by that is we have friendly competition on our team constantly. So we have a leaderboard up in the office. We have every team meeting we go over conversion rates, we score them. We're constantly having contests to build sales. I just have found that a lot of really good salespeople love that. They thrive in that environment. And so when you set up the environment for production, so the environment that leads to production, you don't have to be that stern on accountability about production because it's naturally happening. And so I'm a big believer in making sure that the environment will reflect that of what you're wanting. And then the other piece of it is, we have it set up to where at every point of the process in our system, each lead, each appointment, each buyer or seller is on an activity plan to where an activity plan has what's expected of the agents. And then in addition to what's expected of the agents, there's an administrative person that checks behind to make sure that it happens. So a lot of our accountability is actually in our system, in our CRM system, and built in to where people can't be forgotten. So I have found that a lot of teams don't have systems built to where a lead can easily be forgotten about from a salesperson, and not intentionally. But our system's built to where there's checks and balances to make sure that we're catching things. So those are the two ways that we hold our team accountable, is both by creating an environment where production is really what it's about, and then making sure that in the system, every single person is on an activity plan, and then each person is doing what they're supposed to be doing on the activity plan.
Got it. That sounds like what KW Opportunities will likely be.
Yes. So I worked with KW and Labs on this because we have it built out so strong, and that's where Opportunities Semi came from, actually.
Sounds familiar.
Yes. They came up to our team and worked on building a system around this because we're doing a lot of it manually, which is like really hard.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like trudging through the mud if you were just tracking this on a spreadsheet.
Exactly, yeah. So now, thank you to our amazing company, we now are going to be able to do that right in command and make it a lot easier. So, yes, that is.
Well, thank you, because that is one of the things I'm most looking forward to because, even on our team, it happens. It's what do we do with these leads once they come in, and how do we make sure that they get followed up with in the way that they're supposed to and that they transition from one step to the other?
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So
awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
And so so you do a lot of contests. What is your sales agents, what's their favorite contest?
So everyone seems to love Apple products. And so we do a lot of Apple product contests that they get the newest, biggest iPad, or we've even done AirBooks before. But a lot of times we do them around reviews. We'll do them around whatever we're behind in. Right now we're behind in listing agreements, so we're having a listing agreement contest. So I'm just constantly looking at our numbers, and then I build contests around what we're needing. There's a book called Ultimate Sales Machine that I highly, highly recommend, that really, if you look at the Reynolds team, we really duplicated that book and built it out, and it talks about the power of contests with salespeople. So.
Awesome. So for everyone on the call, when we post this link to KW Connect, I'll put a link to the Amazon for the Ultimate Sales Machine, so you don't have to remember what that is. That sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to that, and then getting some contests for our team for sure. And then anything else as far as production and how you're keeping your folks accountable besides just creating that environment and then having it be a competition and a party?
We have steady one-on-ones with our team, and also group accountability as well, based on areas. And so that's a big portion of it too. But that's more, in my opinion, that's more helping them prioritize their pipelines and things. a lot of the accountability really comes from, on my team, you just don't want to be on the bottom of the leaderboard. Like, that's just, a lot of it just comes from, like, they hustle really hard not to make that happen.
Sure.
And so that's where I feel that's where a lot of our success comes from, not as much with the sit down, to be honest. That's more of helping them with their pipelines in particular.
Right. That makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
So then wanted to transition. We saw on stage when you were on stage with Gary talking about your ISA and getting that hire done. I know that that's a lot of the conversation I've been having with my coach, as well as, just in general. So when you said that you had hired that ISA and it was a very lonely role, what prompted you what made you decide to take that step to hire the ISA? Where were you in your business when you did that? And then kind of what did that impact have? I mean, obviously we know today that's 800 deals.
Yeah, I actually didn't share this on the stage. There's a lot that we missed there that we could go into. But the first piece was I was at Keller Williams family reunion. This was like 8 years ago. And it might have been actually a little bit more than 8 years ago. And there was a panel, and they were talking about making calls and prospecting. And one of the panelists said, I really don't like making calls. And he said, so I decided to hire someone for it. His name is Russell Rhodes. He leads a great team out of the Dallas market. And I was sitting there, and I was like, yeah, me too. I don't like doing it either. No. And so I was like, I'm gonna hire an inside sales agent to make calls. And so that's what actually led to it, is me just like, I'm such a big believer in like focusing on your strengths and focusing in your sweet spot. Each leader, each agent sort of has where that is, and building your team around it. So like, yes, we of course have the models that we follow, but also like there can be some variances depending on the lead agent's strengths. And so like I'm a firm believer in making sure that you hire your team around that. And so for me, I was so good when I was able to get in front of people, but I just need to get in front of more people. And so that's what led to me hiring an inside sales agent. And at the time, I don't even think we had helped 100 families that year. And so our business was pretty small. It was me and I believe 2 admin when we hired our first inside sales agent.
Gotcha. And so then fast forward, it built onto that team. I know you mentioned that it was lonely, so you had to bring in more than one so they could, get whipped together.
Yeah, like 3 to 4 years we had one, and it was such a struggle. Oh my goodness, it was such a struggle. And then when we hired the second, it was like the magic happened. And I was like, why did I not do this a long time ago? And my one piece of advice for inside sales is always hire 2. Even if it takes you prolonging hiring, meaning you have to save some money to make sure you can afford to, my recommendation is to have 2 because you're going to keep them longer. And that inside sales is, if you talk to many teams that have inside sales agents, they'll tell you that's probably their biggest turnover part of their business. And a lot of it comes around, I think, just hiring one person.
Sure.
And so, having the camaraderie, having someone that can help you in that and have someone else in your department, that's something that's super, super needed. And it's just been a huge, impact to our business in a big way. And now our whole business is sort of ran off our inside sales department. They're really the heart of our company.
Right. It's a lead generation machine. And for those on the call who, aren't necessarily in a position to hire an ISA or even a team of them, I recall early on, I could not lead generate alone and have success. I would be under the desk after 3 hours, like chewing off my fingernails. Like
yes.
I had to find a tribe to get in, to be around, and in order to do it, and then in order to show success and have the competition. So take that idea and implement it to how your business is structured. And then it makes sense to, the more people that you can put onto that lead generation time, the more you'll be able to do it and at a higher
Yeah, and
level.
I made the priority of hiring an inside sales agent, and so like I'm a big believer in, like, especially on the sales side, like it's good if you really know how to do it well before you hire someone. And so I think that's awesome advice of just like getting together with other people and lead generating. I mean, the same applies to all of us. So having someone with you is so, so powerful. I mean, me and Jennifer Young, she leads the number 2 team in our region. We're best friends, and we started around the same time. And we used to call expires together and call for sale by owners together, and that's really what built our business in the very beginning. And so that's awesome advice. I love that.
Yeah, cool. So then one more quick thought, and then I'll open it up to some questions from the audience. So I know that you've definitely over the past, from what you've said, 8 or so years, built a business that has been multiplying in growth substantially. And from a mindset perspective, like, who did you have to become? What was your mindset shift that you had to go through in order to go from like 300 units to 500 units, now going to 800 units? What type of shifts did you have to go through that journey in mindset?
Yeah. So such a great question. I love this question. In the beginning, up until about 250 to 400 units, it was all about creating that ultimate sales machine. Like, everything I did was on studying sales, sales businesses, reading sales books, a lot around just building an ultimate sales machine, building a team that is all focused on sales. And then I would say from the year before to now, really focusing on my leadership and increasing my leadership skills and increasing, really getting in the room with powerful leaders and learning from them, like Gary Keller and so many others that have been such big influences on my life. And now my focus is to get us to over 1,000 families. My focus is now on training other leaders, which is that's its own skill set.
Sure.
And so it came from like being an ultimate. Well, really, it first started like years ago is by being just a really, really good realtor. I mean, being that dominant listing agent, taking market share, knowing how to take listings when you're competing, just like really being a really, really good listing agent. Then it turned into building the ultimate sales machine. Then it turned into leadership, focusing on leadership, and then now it's focusing on leading leaders and really developing leaders. And so that's sort of been the journey. One tip I have around this that I think I would hope would be beneficial for everyone listening, I always go to trainings and hear these people, and I used to hear people on stage that are doing these like massive numbers, and oh my goodness, was that inspiring hearing them. But it was also like not as relatable, because it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to go from like 50 units to like 500 next year, I would like to, but but that wasn't really like my reality of growth. And so what I started realizing was that I needed to find people that were like one step ahead of me. So like if my goal, like let's say the year that I sold like 50 houses, okay? If my goal was to sell 100 houses, I would find like KW, everything's open book. So you can actually see everyone's numbers, right?
Sure.
So yep. I would go to KW Reports and I would look at who was on track or who just recently helped 100 families. And then I became so involved in their life. I was like, can I take you to lunch? I have questions for you. And because that's where I knew I wanted to go, I'm still doing that today. And I think it's really powerful. Like, it's so awesome to learn from so many that share in this company, but it's also super powerful to say, okay, next year I want to go there. Who is already there, and really try to, bring value to them as well, but also learn from them, because they have learned things that they needed to do to get to where you're wanting to go. I wanted to share that as that's a big part of my journey as well.
That's great advice. We were just talking about that at our market center with our team leader, Jessica Fox, about benchmarking and
Yes.
identifying agents and or teams that are, not so far away from where you want to be, and putting your businesses up against each other to see, what's your growth coming from, what's your success coming from. I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
because I know our team leaders are doing that too, and with market centers, and
yes,
it's been powerful. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Cool. All right. So, anything else you want to share before we open it up to some questions?
I don't think so. I would love to answer some questions.
All right, great. So we're going to get the Q&A section started. Okay, so when we click the Q&A, Sarah, you got muted temporarily. You're now unmuted. I love this system. So you're now unmuted, as am I, and I believe we have a few questions in the queue, and our operations manager, Kelly, is managing those. So so let's do it. I think we have a couple in the queue.
How do we know who's first?
Whoever's talking now can go.
Okay, good. Hey, Sarah, question for you. How did you compensate your ISA?
Great question. So we compensate a base of $24,000 a year, so it's $2,000 a month, and then they make 5% when it closes as a bonus. Now, if it was a what we call a calling come list me, so we're pretty branded in our market now at this point, and so because of that, we do get people that call and just say, hey, I want Debbie and Sarah to sell my house. And so if we get a call like that, the ISA still handles it, but then they get a flat $150 versus the 5%. Now, our average price point is about $400,000, and so I have seen models vary depending on price point a little bit. I know some go up to as much as 10% in bonus, but that's how we pay our ISAs.
Okay, excellent. And is the assistants are they compensated in addition to the rate that you pay them?
Say that again?
Are the assistants, Sarah, compensated in addition to, like if they help keep you guys or the agents on track to hit their goals, are they compensated as well? Or is it just a flat salary?
So they have a flat salary that's pretty competitive within our market. So they're paid pretty well. And then we have a bonus structure depending on how many families they are part of, like in terms of helping them close. It's a range system because some of them are licensed, some of them aren't licensed, and so in our state we can't pay based if they're non-licensed. And so what we do is we pay them like a range. Like so, if like 0 to 10 families close that they were the TC on, they would get a bonus of $500. If 10 to 20 close, like I'm actually not sure of the specific range, to be honest, but it's something along those lines.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for your input.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. Thanks for that question. Go ahead.
Good morning, Jake and Sarah. I just wanted to ask, Sarah, if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice from when you first started in real estate, what advice would you give yourself, or what would you have done differently when you first started out?
What's hard about this question is every lesson that we learn and everything is so a part of who we are. And it's such a hard question because it's but would I really do it different? Because so much of what has happened is definitely who I am. I would say there's probably different stages of that question. So like the first one is I would have like dove into to hiring a coach earlier. For the first, I would say 2 to 3 years, I didn't have a coach, and I grew a little bit, but I grew much faster once I hired a coach. And I would say that's for sure what I would have done faster or different or more immediate. The other thing I would have done that I've learned that I'm from just building a team out is waiting for someone to prove themselves before putting them in a leadership position. I've had some hard lessons around this topic, and something that I tell my team on a pretty regular basis, that if you want to be a leader on the team, then you have to first show that you live up to the Reynolds team leader definition, which we focus more heavily on servant leadership than anything else. So if your actions aren't reflecting serving the team, before you even get a title, you would never get that title unless you first show that you are that for 1, 2, sometimes 3 to 4 years. And so I promoted pretty early on in people in leadership that should have never been, that hadn't proven to live up to our standards. So those are the two things that I would have done different and or faster.
I really appreciate that. I also wanted to touch on one of the things you had brought up is playing on your strengths. And I think that's a huge thing to do, is to build up on your strengths. And I know that a lot of times, in KW, they're always saying, do the DISC assessment and things like that. Are you doing any strength finder, like the Gallup strength finder or anything like that with your team to find out what their strengths are to build up on that?
Yes, a very timed well question. That's the focus of our advance this year, our team advance that's coming up. We focus heavily on strength, but it's been a few years since we put a lot of emphasis on it. But this year, our advance, we're actually hiring a guest speaker that's coming in, and we're focusing heavily on the Strength Finders book and really understanding each person's strengths and building the team around that. So yeah, I'm such a big believer in strengths, but Strength Finders is awesome. I love that book.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Well, those are all the questions that I have, and I really appreciate you guys taking time out today. I got a lot of information from it.
Awesome.
Cool, great. I'll also put a link to that book as well on the any of the books we hear. I'll put that link out so that if you can't remember them, they'll be on my KW Connect page.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Cool. I think we got time for 1 or 2 more.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi. I was curious, what percentages, it says your lead generation is sphere and farming and expired. What percentages are you at this point in those different categories?
In what particular category? Sorry.
Like where your business is coming from. Like, do you know what percentage is your sphere and what percentage is farming? And
yeah, so our number one source of business is our Sphere past clients database, as well as adopted clients, so people that buy our listings. That's our number one source of business. Our number 2 source of business is our farming area. So we are very heavy on hyper-local focus in farming. And then our third is actually both online and offline sign calls. So we're a very listing-heavy team. And so we get a lot of sign calls still, as well as what I call online sign calls. So like a Zillow inquiry on our listing, I call an online sign call. And so those are our top 3 sources of business, and that makes up like 70 to 80% of our closed business. So a big portion.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that question. And looks like we may have time for 1 more. If anyone else would like to jump in and ask a question of Sarah. Cool. Awesome. Well, hey, that takes us right to 10:15. which is what we've got allotted, and I do respect everyone's investment of time on being on the call today. So again, we're going to record this session. Sarah, tell us one more time where you're at and how we can get you referrals up to your area.
Yes, I would love to help your referrals, and with our system of ensuring that nothing is dropped, your referrals will not be dropped even if they're further out. So we can help anyone in Maryland, anyone looking to buy or sell in Maryland, anyone looking to buy or sell in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, and West Virginia. And we would absolutely love and take care of your referrals. And then something that we are passionate about is KW Cares and giving back to KW Cares. That was the best award that we won last year, which was one of the top 5 individual givers of KW Cares. And so what we do with referrals is that we give a portion of the income that we receive from the referral to KW Cares on behalf of the agent that referred them.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yes, and so I wanted to mention that as well.
Cool. All right, so again, I appreciate everyone's time. I'm Jake Yancarelli, Base Camp Tampa Bay, Keller Williams Realty here in the South Florida region in Clearwater, Florida. Find us on KW Connect for all of our recordings with mega agents, and undoubtedly we'll see you around, and make it a great day.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dick.
Thanks. Thank you.